Evening, everyone. One of the worst things about the modern internet is when the comment sections get locked or closed down on a news article or on a forum that you've shared a link with. And I hated how the conversation is stifled like that. So I added a forum to my website. So if you have a link to share, please share it with us. Join the conversation. Help us grow. We are growing, so you'd be welcome to fill out the conversation. Link is in the description. And also, a link is in the description to the petition against the Global Compact on Migration that will be signed on Monday, December 10th. You can sign at the top or scroll down and sign at the bottom after you look at our total signature numbers. We're very close to 50,000 signatures, and that's pretty good. Here are the countries that are listed that are not signing on to the Global Compact for migration: Australia, Belgium, Denmark, Italy, United States, Hungary, Austria, Bulgaria, Poland, Israel, Dominican Republic, Estonia, Czech Republic, Croatia, Slovenia, Slovakia, Russia, Korea, Japan. This isn't an alt-right conspiracy theory. This isn't even a rebel media conspiracy theory, as much as they'd love to take credit for it, I'm sure, just because it's very well known. You know, this Global Compact on Migration, if that was all the rebels doing, man, they've got a lot of money and spare time on their hands, right? But the point is, there are a lot of countries that have a very big problem that aren't maniacally alt-right. You know, Korea is not alt-right as far as I know. Croatia and Czech Republic, Estonia, Dominican Republic. I've been to the Dominican Republic. They're quite nice. So as far as I'm understanding it, their legal teams are looking at the language in the Global Compact and saying, whoa, there's enough to be concerned about here that we're not going to sign that piece of paper. Because look at what the Paris Accord has done, carbon taxes, etc. And look at what other non-binding UN compacts and agreements have done. They influence countries' laws, and that's what the Global Compact will do. It will influence the laws. It will encourage people to come to Canada. It will make them believe that our borders are open and ready to accept them, when that is not the case, and I will show you that that is not the case. First, we're going to look at today's Yellow Jacket protests, because there were Yellow Jacket protests across Canada. In the Saskatoon Star Phoenix, they're reporting, quote, we're having policy jammed down our throat. Yellow vest protesters slam carbon tax migration decisions. Demonstrations throughout Western Canada took aim at the carbon tax and Canada's decision to sign on to the UN's Global Compact on Migration. Activists donned high-visibility yellow vests and rallied outside the Saskatoon City Hall to protest against the federal government's actions regarding the carbon tax and an international migration pact. Inspired by the Yellow Vest protesters who have taken to the streets of Paris to rally against the French government's fuel taxation decisions, the Yellow Vest-wearing group that came out in the Saskatoon on Saturday morning had a similar agenda. Demonstrations took place in Saskatoon, Regina, Calgary, and Edmonton. But like their French counterparts, the protests were about more than just carbon taxes. Quote, we're having policy jammed down our throats, and the majority of Canadians disagree with, organizer Tyler Engelbert said. Besides the carbon tax, the major point of contention was the Canadian government's recent decision to join or sign on to the UN Compact for safe, orderly, and regular migration. The idea behind the compact is that it gives all signees a structured framework for the handling of migrants coming into their respective countries. Yeah, that's the reporting on here in this article kind of goes off the rails after this, so we'll just leave it there. And the link is in the description. Read it if you like. In Ottawa, there was an Antifa violence breaking out at the Global Compact for Migration protest, and a little bit of disappointing news about Maxime Bernier, but that's all right. These things happen. So this is the Post-Millennial, and they're reporting, quote, Antifa violence breaks out at Ottawa protest against Global Compact for Migration. Police have already started cracking down on both sides of a demonstration against the UN's Global Compact for Migration. More than a dozen groups have converged in Ottawa today to voice their opposition to the Trudeau government's impending signature in Marrakesh, Morocco, of a multinational pact which they argue will turn over Canada's sovereignty to, quote, globalist interests. They were soon met by organized bands of Antifa counter-protesters who did not hesitate to use violence, according to eyewitness accounts of two sources in the crowd working with the Post-Millennial. Protests for and against the Global Compact for Migration turns violent. The Antifa were swiftly dealt with by police, and thank you for the image. There you go, Antifa. That's what we think in Canada. And look at those police wearing high reflective vests, but wait, they weren't in solidarity. Police have also outlawed protesters wearing yellow jackets, such as those worn by the Paris people fighting in the recent increase in gas taxes. Organized groups opposing the Global Compact for Migration, such as Le Meute, arrived wearing their colors. And I'm not sure what their colors are. I'm assuming that's the mute right there. So they were wearing their branding and stuff. And there's more. Mr. Quiggin gave a speech. So there he is. Anti-terror expert Tom Quiggin gave a speech. And here's the update that was disappointing. Quote, Maxime Bernier is no longer expected to speak at the protest, according to a comment from his team. Our previous information that he was supposed to speak was correct. However, after learning that certain groups, which the party organizer did not name, would be present, the MP from Beauce, I'm not sure how to say that, sorry, did not have faith in the demonstration would remain peaceful. Mr. Bernier therefore decided that this demonstration would not be the best venue for his speech. He was not in Ottawa today. This is an on-the-ground report and will be updated. So, interesting that Maxime Bernier decided to not attend this this protest and not deliver his speech, despite the fact that he sent out communications yesterday and email saying that he would be there. Unfortunate across the board, really. Doug Ford tweeted this out, and I thought it was excellent, and this is today. Quote, we are standing with Quebec in renewing our call to the federal government to pay the cost for illegal border crossers in our provinces. Ontario taxpayers are currently owed over $200 million because of Justin Trudeau's failed policies, and there's a link to a news.ontario.ca press release. Premier Ford and Premier Legault call for federal compensation for the cost of illegal border crossings by migrants. Ontario Premier Doug Ford and Quebec Premier François Legault are calling on the federal government to reimburse their provinces for the cost of supporting illegal migrants coming from the U.S. Premier Ford and Premier Legault committed to working together on this issue following discussion at the First Ministers' meeting in Montreal, and to ensuring that the federal government fully compensate the provinces for the costs resulting from this unilateral and political decision. Quote, the impact on our social services and educational systems are being felt by the most vulnerable cities and communities across Ontario and Quebec, said Ford. The federal government made a deliberate decision to encourage illegal border crossers to enter Canada while leaving the provinces to pick up the bill. It is time the federal government took full responsibility for its own failed policies and paid its fair share. According to a report, and this is the PBO report, from the Federal Parliamentary Budget Officer, PBO, each migrant cost the federal government more than $14,000 or $340 million total in 2017-18. That's one fiscal year. And the provinces, so Ontario is looking for $200 million. So when you add that up, that's $500 million in 1 year, unbudgeted. The budgeted amount was $172 million over 2 years, and that was in the 2018 budget. So they blew the budget out of the water, and they're trying to say that they're going to export their successful policies around the world. Absolute lies, and they know it. And the other part of this is fewer than 1% of the people who are crossing have any kind of claim, legitimate claim in Canada. They don't qualify for asylum. They don't qualify for refugee status. They have travel visas to the United States to get to Canada in the first place. We are spending this money. We are educating their children. We are putting them up in hotels. And we are begging the federal government to pay us back. Why? What is going on? I'll tell you what's going on. The federal government, Trudeau's globalist government, is behaving as if the global compact were signed. This is the soft open. This is what we will expect for the next 5-10 years. Nobody in Trudeau's globalist government wants to close our borders. They want to open our borders as wide as possible, bring as many in as possible, because in Trudeau's mind, they're going to be liberal voters. Yeah. And if you're getting paid to come here and paid to hang out in a hotel in Toronto, are you going to vote liberal? Probably. You bet. So we've got a huge problem and no political will to solve it. And we've got police making it illegal to don a yellow vest if you're protesting. But if you're a police officer, you got to wear it. Such a weird, weird world. So thank you for watching. Sorry I'm not telling you about my experience with the yellow vest today. I had my daughter's dance stuff and I was wearing it and nobody asked me about it. So, well, it's kind of a non-story. So there it is. Nothing happened. Anyway, it is what it is. Thanks for watching. Check out the People's Party of Canada.ca and have a wonderful Saturday evening.